Hey listener, welcome to 1000 Routes. I'm your host, Nick Bennett. In each episode, we explore the uncommon paths of solopreneurs who have bet on themselves and the reality of what it takes to build a business that serves your life. Enjoy the episode.
I started my career as a freelance journalist, basically writing magazines, kind of profiles of academics, trying to make them cry, tell me about their mothers, that kind of stuff. And I was really good at it. And basically, I started doing creative work out of that kind of journalism career because I lost all of my clients on a single day right before Christmas one year. You would think like, oh, that guy must have done something scandalous. But the reality is it was just insane timing. Some reason, all of them called me up and said, hey, we're not going to renew. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so broke. So I just started reaching out to people, making calls and going like, hey, we've met, let's work together. What have you got on? How can we make some money together? And eventually one of my friends who I'd I say a friend, we'd met literally once. He introduced a talk that I did at some sort of event. He was like, hey, I've got some creative kind of projects that I think I could sell to clients. You come up with the concept, I'll do the sales, and we'll make some money together. And so my friend Steve and I went off, did that. And it turns out a lot of people just want really poorly defined creative work. So we were doing this for a couple of years, just basically whatever we could. And it was fun. I had a great time. But eventually we had this one client who we sold a piece of branding work to. They basically wanted us to brand some conference center that they had or that they were opening. We did this work, but it turns out they just couldn't make their minds up about which option they wanted to go with. And so
that tracks.
It's so classic. It was so annoying to me because I felt like we were going to end up redoing this work X number of times on the basis that they just couldn't get their act together, sit down around a board table and just put their hands in the air to say, that's the one. So I was like, hey, let's just build a little tool where we can give everybody an anonymous vote on their phone and it'll all be in real time and we'll put it up on the big screen in the boardroom and no one will know who has voted what, but at the end of the kind of 1 minute or whatever, we're going to sit there and we're going to have this is the one we're going with. So we got together with a third kind of person, my friend Sam, and we basically created this in 1 week, literally, actually 4 days. We created this prototype. We told them about it and they did not want to use it. They just literally had no interest in using this product.
Strong signal up front.
You're right. So that 4 days was it was the beta of doopoll. And we went from idea to product. It was basic, but it was a product in 4 days. From there, we started talking to people. We were trying to sell them creative work. They asked, what else you got going on? We told them about doopoll. And almost everyone just wanted to use doopoll rather than hire us for creative work. So we just started selling that. And I firmly remember, this is a kind of an entrepreneurship story. I firmly remember standing in a pitch meeting with a university who wanted to they just seemed to have almost infinite budget to recover their reputation after a public scandal. And we're standing there talking about doopoll and the guy goes, hey, I want that because that'll really help us to kind of make everyone feel like they've got a voice. How much is it? And me and one of my co-founders looked at each other and we were like, just give us a minute. Because we had no idea because no one had ever asked us what the price was before. And we literally went, what do you call it? Shark Tank. We literally walked off to the back of the room, had a quick conversation and went, oh, it's probably it's probably $25K a year for a license. And we said, hey, it's $25K a year. And he went, yep, great. Send me the contract and we'll get going. And that was the start of a roller coaster for us. And that level of preparation, hey, it didn't stop there, It very much continued on that for years to come.
Oh my gosh. So 25K is your first deal. You're like, holy shit, we did it. And then from there on was 3.5 years of building this thing.
Yeah. Well, it turns out that just because someone says they'll pay you 25K doesn't mean they will. So we leave the meeting. We basically are like, hey, we're going to have to go all in on this. This is clearly way more successful than what we're like currently doing. And if we can just pitch this and someone will give us like, a good amount of money, let's go raise some money and we'll basically go all in on this. So we start raising money. We go through what is like at the time feels like a massive due diligence process for a tiny amount of money. And it turns out like it can't have been that diligent because halfway through the investment process, the company who we'd sold this contract to basically like, there's no way we're paying 25K for this. We'll pay you like max 5. And we were just like, yeah, why not? Like, we would have taken any money. And the investors just did not care. And they still gave us the money.
How much did you raise?
It was only a small amount. It was like 300K. For us at the time, it felt like genuinely life-changing because it was like someone's just given us 300K. I've never had that much money in my bank account. And, like for a product with no sales, that's great.
For an idea.
It was. Exactly. No sales, no customers, no real users. And they gave us this money and said like, okay, you got to go all in. So all of us quit everything else we were doing, all of our different projects, and went, basically, this is all we're going to do now for the next X number of years. And the goal was sell it for a heap of money and then, do whatever. Spoiler alert. That was not the reality.
Well, it took 3.5 years. It did get acquired. So I don't know if you're allowed to say like how much it got acquired for.
Well, the story there, and I don't know this, I feel like this is relevant for this conversation actually. In about 2020, I guess, when COVID started, we had lost one of our co-founders. He had moved on. He didn't die.
Okay. I was like, oh shit.
We're still best friends.
So that took a turn.
But he was gone. It was a bit bitter. We kind of all fell out a little bit in that moment. My other co-founder was going through some big life stuff. And we had this contract diligence coming through again. We had this user who was a public company. They own all of the kind of regional newspapers in the UK. So like they're a big public company in the UK. And they had been kind of doing a trial run of doopoll for using for like voting during big events and things like that, kind of, sports matches and stuff like that. And we were about to close our biggest ever deal with them. It would have given us runway for a whole year. And then COVID hit and they got rid of 30% of their workforce literally overnight. It was like awful. We lost that contract. And it was like, oh my gosh, are we going to go out of business here? Because it wasn't clear at that time how long this would last and all that kind of stuff. And I just remember going like, well, we're going to have to keep on trying to close this deal. And they asked us if they could use the product for one more kind of trial. We just sort of went, well, we're going to lose it anyway. We may as well. So they wanted to do a survey where they would embed our survey, basically our widget on all of the front pages of all of their newspapers. And they wanted to do a survey about like attitudes to lockdown in the UK. We were like, that's great. That's going to be the thing that's going to send us over the edge. If we didn't get a contract or an agreement or anything in place to do this, we just like went ham. And we went from, I think, 1.6 million all-time votes to 16 million in 4 days. And at first it was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the thing that gets us acquired. This company is going to buy us. And that was generally the conversation, or it felt like the conversation anyway. And then they said like, hey guys, the platform keeps crashing. And it turns out like if you slam servers with that much traffic and that much information and you make that many database requests, it absolutely melts any kind of server if you're not very much prepared for that. And we weren't. And so we had like days of just horrific. Anytime somebody tried to access their results, the platform crashed for everyone. We just brought down all the servers. It was the most nightmarish 4 days probably of my life in the end. We burnt through because of cloud server bills and all of the associated things like intercom, like everything. I think we're using like Amplitude or something at the segment, like all of these kind of basic software tech stack tools. We burnt through like all of our money.
Because I'll pay for use or whatever.
Right, exactly. And if you massively, if you blitz that, it's going to burn through cash. So after that, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm done here. Like this has been a long couple of years. My wife was about to have our second kid. And I was like, I think I just need the stability of a job. And that was the first time in my career that I thought I'm going to go and get a job. So I furloughed myself from my company and I was like, hey, let's just like take the government grant. Couple of months, I'll be back. And I knew as soon as I said that I was done. And I immediately started looking for a job actually. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. What a roller coaster. So you learned, just to like connect all the dots here, you cut your teeth and learned growth as a vocation doing this, like building doopoll.
Yeah, that's right.
So you do that, you furlough yourself, you knew you weren't coming back. At some point along the way, a deal comes to fruition and you end up selling the company and you move on to Powered by Search.
So I was already gone from the company by then. I was so keen to get out of the company that I literally went, hey guys, I'm not going to work out my notice period here, but I'm going to give you back all of my shares. I'm just going to give you everything free of charge. I think I was just like, you pay my legal fee. And I want to be out of this company in the next week.
To the two remaining co-founders, Sam and Steve.
Just one at that point. He was left on his own with just, like one or two team members at that point to work out what to do. I thought, you know what? He's made the most sales here. I've done a lot of marketing work and growth work. He's done the big enterprise sales. He's going to be fine. And he carried on growing that thing for a couple of years afterwards. And then I think 2023 or something like that, he sold the company to a really big competitor.
All right. Well, it seems like it worked out for him pretty well.
Yeah. There you go.
So you learn growth and you're like, I need some stability in my life. Time to go back in-house. You spend some time at Powered by Search, end up at Podia doing basically everything. You were the face of Podia for a couple of years. And I remember seeing some of the hilarious stuff that you were doing there. But as you decide, like, what was the turning point for you as you wrapped up your time at Podia to go, I want to go back in entrepreneurship, or like go into just, what was the catalyst for you to decide it was time to go back out?
Sure. I mean, firstly, I really liked working at Podia. It was good fun, good people, good product, and people who bought Podia genuinely loved it. And it kind of unlocked a lot of value in their lives. And that was really cool. I think what I realized was that I was creating a lot of value, I felt, and there was a cap on how much of that value I would be able to access, If I'm honest, when I arrived at Podia, they gave us everyone got like a therapy benefit. And therapy is not a big deal in the UK unless you've got like an actual problem that you've been diagnosed. I'm going to go and I need some support here, or something traumatic's happened to me. And I was like, wow, I've never thought about doing this before, but as this company's given me one, I'm just going to go and use it. And one of the things that I learned from that period was I'm massively driven by a scoreboard. I'm not competing with other people, but it's like arbitrary competition for me. And if I'm doing well in life, I'm probably looking at a number and just trying to arbitrarily improve that number. And money is one of those things for me. It's not that I particularly have a huge, expensive taste or anything like that. It's just kind of like fun, fun tokens, maximum points. I want to generate maximum points just for the sake of it. And I realized there's a limit to the number of points I can accrue here, even though it's a cool company and, good work and stuff and lots of opportunities. I probably maxed out the value that I'm going to A, deliver, and B, receive at this moment. So time to move on and do what I've done at Podia for other companies as well. So that was, I think, the motivation for me.
But going out on your own versus getting another job, I mean, I think you had racked up enough notoriety points that I think you probably could have went and worked at not any company that you wanted to, but I think you probably had a decent opportunity to. So what was the motivation to say, like,
Yeah.
was it literally just, hey, the earning potential here is just, I mean, doing this unlocks that?
Yeah. I think the question is like, at what point do you realize like, oh, I could grow much faster in this way if I was outside of the employment structure? And it's not just about money. It's also about being told what you can and can't do, you know? Every company that I've ever worked with has gone like, hey, we're cool with side projects. But there are always certain side projects that are not allowed. And I was like, oh, my curiosity is also being captured. And that's not to say that like people were kind of, you know, controlling or anything like that. It's just simply to say, I realize like there's a limit to what I can explore and use my time with if I stay in a company. And there will always be this feeling of like almost golden handcuffs, you know? What's the saying? The two most addictive things in life are heroin and a salary. Like, it's true. You know, you really have to break both of those addictions if you want to live like a really healthy life, you know, if you're a curious person, I think, anyway.
Well, the salary piece is, it's the false sense of stability that comes with it.
Yeah.
And the false sense of safety, and you are making a trade. Like, you're trading income and earning potential for quote unquote stability. It just feels, all of a sudden one day, from the people that I talk to, especially like going through this show with people, it's like most people have that light bulb moment and they go, wait a minute. I have unintentionally agreed to this ridiculous social contract that employment makes my life better versus entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is always for somebody else or things like that. And then all of a sudden you realize like, oh, I could probably earn more. I can call the shots on my own life, do the exact type of work I want to do. Like, and it's liberating. It's like, it is most certainly freeing. And it is actually much more addicting than the salary ends up. I don't know about the heroin thing, but the salary for sure.
Yeah, I think heroin's pretty heavy stuff. I don't know if you've ever heard this analogy. It's in the book Anti-Fragile, which is classic bro literature. It's of two brothers who enter the workforce at the same time. One of them becomes a banker and the other one becomes a taxi driver. The banker earns at a higher rate than the taxi driver for the majority of his career. But when he's 50, he gets fired because the bank closes. And he's out of the market because he's only been a banker. He's 50. So he's a pretty risky hire for a lot of people. And, you know, suddenly like his earning potential goes to zero. On the other hand, the taxi driver earns at a lower rate, has to work probably harder in many ways. And like for his whole life, people look down on him. But at the age of 50, he carries on, right? He continues earning and like, you know, depending on where they are in the world, he's probably earning a good amount as a taxi driver. And if his work dries up in the area that he's in, he can easily move to a different area of the city or a different time of day, and he can work there. He has the optionality to continue until his eyesight basically fails or his back gives out. And also, if he doesn't want to work, he just doesn't turn up. He doesn't turn on the light. And so like, the question is like, which version of optionality do you want? Do you want the optionality of kind of, this is my income every month. This is the salary. I'm going to earn up until this point. But there's a huge amount of risk involved in that because my bank could close and 100% of my income could go overnight. And then my earning potential too, depending on where I am in my life. And I think like a lot of people in jobs like mine, you know, like marketing and growth are really experiencing that now. Like it's pretty scary out there for a lot of people. You know, I'm sometimes worried about that myself, but like at the same time, I now have optionality, you know, I don't have to have 100% of my income come from marketing and growth work. You know, I can explore other stuff and no one can tell me don't do that.
Yeah. Something John Benini said to me when I interviewed him long ago, several months ago, he said, he's like, you earn that first $1 online and it just totally rewires your brain. It's like all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, like I can just make money. You can just do that. And all of a sudden you're like, like you said, you're like, well, you have optionality. Now all of a sudden I can do consulting.
Yeah.
I can do courses. I mean, these are just even just in the little marketing bubble that we play in, but there's an unlimited amount of things. I was talking to someone the other day, one of my coaches, about my business model. And he was like, hey, like, there's a limit to what a coaching business can produce. And he goes, and you know what, like, that's fine. If you don't want to bring on people, you don't want to scale like this, it's not that that's the only way to scale. It's the most practical way to scale. And he goes, but the thing is like scale from your life doesn't have to come from that thing. Scale from your life can come from real estate. Scale from your life can come from investing in something, like doing something else entirely. And I was like, I have been so like blinders on, this is how, this is the business I want to build, and because it's working, but it's like, oh, well, when is enough enough? I don't need to wring this thing out like a towel and completely dry it out. Like there's a limit to what any of our work should produce. And I think that's something we don't think a lot about. Everyone's just like grow into oblivion.
Yeah, I think since leaving Podia, one of the things that I've realized, which, it's not Podia's fault. One of the things I've realized is like, actually, I would take less money for more freedom.
Hell yeah.
And that's not a feeling that I ever had before, like even when I was self-employed previously, it was like, hey, if I get to this amount of wealth, then I can do this, or my life will be great at that level of wealth.
The goalposts will always move.
My life's great already. Like,
yeah,
if I can pay my tax bill and I can like do good things with my family, like great, like that's good.
Or well, that's it. The lights are still on. It's cool inside in the summertime, and it's hot inside. It's warm inside in the wintertime. Like we're good. One thing that I have found is like the more money you make, the more pressure there is. And it might not even be external. It's a lot of internal pressure we put on ourselves. There is more pressure on you to give up something. Mm-hmm. Right? This obligation, we're pre-wired to feel that pressure and feel the obligation and give up a lot of that freedom. And it sucks. And you don't realize it until you sell something and you're like, I'm over capacity, and you sell anyway because you're like, well, why not make hay when the sun shines? Yeah. And then you're like, whoa, overcommitted, overextended, tapping into, I'm overextending into parts of my life that I don't want to give up. Maybe I'm working later, or I'm working at nights, and that's not to say working is bad. Like I love working. Yeah. I have energy to work at the weirdest times, but also I want to go like hang out and do silly shit with my kids. And I don't want to feel the anxiety of like, I have other things to be doing, and then your head's not there. You don't want to be physically present with your kids, but like mentally or emotionally somewhere else. That's even worse.
I think there's something to that concept, by the way, of like, fun tokens. I know we joke about it, but like they really, like money should facilitate that stuff in your life. It's like buying tokens. You trade your time, you get the fun tokens back. The question is like, are you going to actually spend them in the arcade, or are you just going to like, are you going to like...
You're going to keep your tickets, yeah.
Yeah, you're just going to walk out again and get some more,
Totally. So going out on your own in this way, having learned everything you learned as a freelance journalist and doing this creative stuff, like you've taken your lumps, what were you second guessing this second time around?
Everything. I don't think anything changes in many ways. Okay. So like, to be clear, I mean, previously my skill set was like very unusual previously. You don't meet that many journalists in life unless you live in like a media center, And so I had to like find ways to ply that trade that were maybe not just directly kind of related to getting published in magazines and stuff like that. This time around, I have like a very clear set of skills. They are like, partly practical, partly strategic. And so there's like a really clear path to market for using skills like mine. That being said, like what I still second guess is, am I doing the right services here? Are these things that are actually in demand, or are these things that I'm just really good at producing results with? So I'll give you an example. So right now I'm doing a lot of stuff around like, email marketing and Lifecycle. Now, I've personally seen that stuff crush in terms of revenue for companies. Like I see it all the time. But Erin Balsa asked me about it the other day, like, what are you selling? And I was like, I'm selling email marketing. And she was like, well, who are you competing against? And what I actually sort of said to her was this, like, I think I'm competing against people who don't want to do email marketing, you know, in many ways. And she said, well, yeah, or the junior intern. And I'm like, that's totally true. Like, I've seen that happen. You know, somebody gets basically past you do the email marketing, like, we need this event invitation or whatever. And that's what people think of, right? So I think, like, as the more I do this, the more I think, okay, what is the actual specific set of services that people both value and will pay for and think of me for, or as an expert in? And like, what is a market that I both want, you know, I want to spend time in and will get compensated at, like, the correct balance of volume and, you know, actual money for. So I'm definitely thinking about that right now. I wouldn't say I'm finding that balance amazingly, to be quite frank. Like, very much in my head since probably like summertime. Like, I got a confidence problem where, like, I'm incredibly confident and, like, I'm almost unpleasantly confident until something knocks my confidence, at which point I'm crushed for weeks on end. I got to work really hard to get out of that rut. Right now, I'm like on my way out of the rut. So I think that's what I'm second guessing.
Well, I'll tell you what I've found. And I found this to be true for everyone that I work with and just others and everyone I know in this line of work, which is like, you don't have to be crazy to do this work, but it helps. And that the emotional whiplash that you're experiencing, where it's like, you get a lot of yeses one day, and then one day all you get are no's, and like this up and down, like that doesn't go away. Yeah. But your tolerance for it goes up over time. And so, like, this huge peak and valley thing that you're describing, it definitely gets way less jarring, but it doesn't go away. Like, our ability to manage it just gets better. I'm curious, you seem almost like surprised that the lifecycle email marketing has become the thing. Just the way I read some of your posts or the way that you talk about it, you're like, yeah, I end up doing this for a lot of people. And it's like, seems almost surprising to you that this is kind of becoming a thing. How many things did you go through, or what were some of the things that you went through as like offerings or services until you feel like you landed on this one that started to gain more traction?
Well, I mean, like, having done agency work, in-house work, startup work, like, I think I've done it all. The only thing I think that I really haven't ever done is paid media, which is funny because, you know, if I tell someone I work in growth, they're like, oh yeah, so you run ads. You know?
Like, I don't work in demand. And they're like, what are you talking about?
In some ways, I am surprised that that kind of email and Lifecycle is where I feel like I've sort of almost ended up for this moment. I'm not saying it's where I'll finish, but
totally get that.
Like, for right now, it's where I'm at because it's like, it's driving significant revenue results for people who actually trust me on it. And I think that maybe it's like almost the perfect storm of all of the different skills. It's the intersection of all of, like, the things I've done in the past. It's some creative, it's some strategy, it's some, like, pricing and packaging, it's some understanding the customer, you know. There's some, there's some technical stuff. There's automation. There's like heaps of different things. And to be really good at that stuff, you have to be in the kind of the middle of that. And like, I am, and I'm not aware of that many people who are offering that. I hope there's a reason that many people aren't offering that, you know, and it's this, they can't do it rather than it's not valuable. So that's where I'm at.
Well, people choose to do one component of that, right? I think the secret sauce for you is in the packaging. You're like, there are 9 different things that go into making this work. The vast majority of people offer 1 or 2 of these 9.
Yeah.
And that's why when you hire, I mean, and you well framed on the problem on your site, by the way, like, you framed this up beautifully. It's the same exact narrative. You were like, most of the people, like, they're not going to take you all the way. Like, they'll just write the emails for you, or they'll just do the setup and the automation for you, or they'll just do, you know, everyone always wants to sell strategy. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's not that there's something wrong with with not going all the way with your clients, but I personally believe that it is in our best interest to make the biggest difference for our clients. And part of that is seeing everything all the way through. There's a lot of people that don't do that. And I don't know why they don't do that. It's just maybe their skill sets like have a more defined endpoint and they're like, that's not what I do. And that's fine. And I totally respect that. But I do believe that seeing it through, which is what you're doing, I believe that's why what you're doing is making the difference that it is.
Yeah. Well, I hope that's true. I mean, I believe it. No, I believe that is true because you know what, like if you've seen my website or any of the stuff that I produce, you're like, I'm pretty obsessed with like the concept of punk. And when people think about punk, they think about Johnny Rotten, they think about the kind of the Sex Pistols or whatever. But I think it's so much broader than that. And what I love about punk is that it's about DIY, like the kind of the aesthetic of DIY, as in like, just make it happen. Like get your hands dirty. There's no right way of doing this. That's very much how I see marketing and growth. Like there is no one right way of doing this. There's a lot of wrong ways, but like the key one is you don't do it, like just get out, get your hands in and like figure it out. And I love that feeling. I love that feeling of figuring it out with someone. And, the first shot, maybe not the best shot. The second shot, you're going to get better. And like, you're going to keep on taking those shots. And over time, you're going to figure it out. And that's going to be great when you do, because despite the fact that you think about a punk record, like you listen to it now, like it sounds like it was recorded, through a wall. It sounds terrible, but like, doesn't it say something? The fact that those sound like that and they're still songs that you can sing all the words to. They're still songs that you remember. They're still songs that when you had a bad day and you need a bit of energy in your life, you put that on and you can listen to Dead Kennedys or whatever in the kitchen or Talking Heads, post-punk, and you can still sing all of those songs while you're cleaning the dishes and feel amazing. Like that energy for founders, for people in startups and SaaS, like that's the energy they need because it's absolutely rough going through the same thing every day and feeling like I'm going to like create shareholder value today. That's a rough feeling.
Yeah. Well, it's contagious. That's the other part about it that I think goes very much overlooked across the board, whether it's people like us trying to make friends and find peers doing the same work and trying to find people who are high energy and not like, oh, that person who's like bouncing off the walls and had too many energy drinks energy, like someone who has just a really great, it's like, I don't want to call it vibe. There's just something about them that you're like, I like being around this person. They give me a lot of energy. They're really positive. They're doing really interesting things. And you're providing that same type of energy to your clients. And when you're around people, like people who just are a drag, it's the same thing. And then when you listen to and then I appreciate the way that you're tying it back to one thing that like a very personal part of your life. And a lot of my growing up was like listening to that type of music. One, it brings a lot of those people with the same energy together, but also it gives you energy. We did a whole podcast about this on my other show about like, how do you follow that energy and how do you just being aware of it is huge.
You ever read The Charisma Myth?
No.
It's a good book. Charisma is what it is. Like some people are born with a little bit of natural charisma, but the argument of the book, and so I buy into this deeply, is that you can build charisma in a way that's like authentic to you and doesn't require you to be like an extrovert effectively. I mean, that's my brand because that's me, like that's how I am in normal life. If you meet me, this is mostly how I am. I'm not putting on a show when I'm on a behind a microphone or on a webcam or whatever. It's just how I am. But like equally, you can give that no matter what you are doing, who you are, as long as you can kind of show that interest, connect with people, they will feel that kind of magnetism. Because that's what it is, really. It's this like feeling of magnetism that you can't put your finger on. I want to be around that person. I want to buy into their ideas. I want to like find opportunities to work with them. It's why I love coaching, actually. Like, I love being able to get like, I mean, I do a lot of that as kind of for founders and things. And I love being able to go like, oh, you've entered this call and I can tell that this is hard for you, but like, if we can in the next hour kind of change it so that your face changes by the end, not like because you've got a bad face, but like the energy in your face, behind your eyes, like I want you to leave the call feeling like less tired, feeling like less worn out, like you could pee through a wall, you know, like I want you to feel like that, you know. That's amazing. That's a great feeling.
Yeah. And just having the wherewithal to call it out. It's like, well, you're feeling a certain way. You have a thought or a belief running in your head that's causing you to feel a certain way. And just having the courage to say that to people is also really tough. Not many people are willing to do that. And that, I think, is what makes a great coach, for sure. But what you're saying, go ahead.
I was going to say, you do a lot of coaching. Like, what's your coaching like superpower? What's your big insight?
Oh my gosh. My big insight? I think it's a lot of just being willing to say the thing, whatever it is. You know, the majority of my work, like, we're anchored in deliverables, and like, there's like a thing and an outcome that we're all working toward. But how we get there is very non-linear in a lot of ways, especially like everyone's at a different starting point, and it's up to us to like organize that. But the reason most people get stuck is because some people don't have the charisma that you're describing. It's not that they can't learn it or something, but there's something that's just not there for them, and they might be doing things out of like, it's a habitual thing instead of an intentional thing. And just having the courage to call it out. And not in a mean way. It's not like, you don't have charisma, Mark. Like, that's a shitty way to do it. Like, that's a really shitty thing to do. But it's like saying like, hey, Mark, like, do you really want to be here?
Yeah. Well, can I ask you this?
Please.
So you, prior to being out on your own, you were also in-house. Did you behave like that in-house as well? So
interesting enough, like my role, like a little bit, right? So my role was as like a director of marketing, and we structured an organization where there were other marketing leaders that had direct reports. Like I'm not a people manager in that way. I coached people through things, the execution of our program, but I didn't have any direct reports. But we did. Impact was a coaching and training company. And so we had a lot of coaches on staff, and a big part of the philosophy of the business was like, well, how do we install really great coaching habits into people? How do we learn to ask great questions? How do you help someone come to a conclusion on their own versus telling them? That, I think, has made the bigger difference, right? The focus on just how do you be what they called at the time a world-class communicator. And they had these tenets of things that made great communication. How do you speak to be understood? Not to be necessarily heard, but like how do you talk to be understood? And so I spent a lot of time around people like that. I spent a lot of time working on that skill, and I'm not great. I mean, there's still lots to learn always, but that I think has made a huge difference in my ability to like help people for sure. It's quite the process, but I will say this, you know, this whole thing you're talking about with like charisma, energy, and being like more drawn to people, and even working with people, like screening for that when you're on a sales call with somebody. And this is where like I watch a lot of sales calls for my clients, and you can see pretty quick, you can see into their energy, or you can see into that, like, you know, that charisma based on how they act on a sales call. And it's not a judgment thing. I want to be clear. It's like, no one's here trying to judge people, but it is like, oh, like I can really tell how much you care. I can tell that you really love doing this work and this matters to you. It's not about creating shareholder value. It's just making a difference for people who want to make a difference. Yeah. Right. Like I want to be here. It's not like I'm here because I have to be here. And all of that is incredibly magnetic for sure. It's like there's an immense amount of gravity. Like people want to work with people like that as clients, like a client relationship, and people want to be around that person as like peers and entrepreneurs. There's something that like when the collective drags you down, when the group of people around drag you down, like, yeah, you're just going to you're going to drop too. It is very true that you are the average of the 5 or 6 people you spend the majority of your time with. The second, it's funny, this is an interesting thing. As I went out on my own and I started spending a lot more time around entrepreneurs because I sell to entrepreneurs, I am one myself, and I now have a business partner. We have we're in Camp Solo as a community of entrepreneurs. The more time you spend around entrepreneurs, all of a sudden you start to look around, and it's not that like entrepreneurs are not better than anybody. I want to be clear. It's just, but you start to notice that there's like the only way I could describe it is like you're cut from a different cloth. It's like always, like I said, you don't have to be crazy to do it, but it helps. And these people, like the entrepreneurship attitude of like, we're just going to do it is very different from the employment mindset. And I think a lot of the rewiring takes place when people make that leap from employment to entrepreneurship and they treat themselves like they're still an employee. And they end up looking up, you know, a year later and they go, I have now, instead of having one full-time job, I have 5 part-time jobs. Yeah, I make more money, but this isn't necessarily a business. This is just 5 I have 5 bosses instead of 1.
Right.
And oftentimes that's a packaging and expectations thing. It's not, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean charisma or energy or anything like that, but it kind of ends you up in some of the same places.
Yeah. Yeah,
is wild.
Feels real.
It is real. Dude, all right, let's end here. Looking back, what's something you would have done differently?
Great question. In an ideal world, I would price higher for what I do. You know, I price at an amount that I think is both fair to clients and also accessible and also fair to me. In an ideal world, I'd get paid more for every hour or every, you know, deliverable that I actually do. I don't know if you can really say, though, looking back, I would have done that differently, you know? I feel like that's a weak answer in some ways, you know? Because all of the stuff we've talked about, all of the kind of, I'll take more freedom for less money, like, feels like almost contrary to it.
2 things can be true at the same time, though. It's fine. No one's judging you. You're good.
Yeah. Well, there you go. All right. Well, I guess if no one's judging me, I'd like more money.
Yeah, well... This is half the reason you're an entrepreneur.
Realistically, I think like one thing I've not been good at so far in self-employment this time round is building pipeline. I should be better at that. And what I actually do is end up focusing on client work without treating myself as a client. Like today, for example, I changed that, you know, I've got a conference talk that I'm doing coming up. It's a big conference talk for me. And I was like, you know, I've got so many deliverables right now that I need to get in. I want to get in. I want to like progress these things. And the temptation is just to go like, I'm going to work late tonight just to do this. What I actually did was went like, hey, this is really important. Doing stuff like this is where I get clients from. I need to like treat myself with the same importance that I treat client work. And so I spent the whole day in a Google Doc just writing this talk, you know, and I'm like, well, now I feel pretty good about that. That's like something off my back. And also, hey, just by articulating these thoughts, I've created a heap of value for future me. And I should do that more often, but I don't. So that's something I think I would do differently.
This is classic doom cycle, like agency doom cycle is that, right? Like you market hard, get a bunch of clients, stop marketing, clients start to roll off for whatever reasons, whether good, bad, or indifferent. And then you're like, wait, I need more clients. And then you do the thing over again. That is like one of the hardest things for people to manage. And no one, like everything, some people are better at managing it than others, but it's never going to go away. I mean, the more stability you introduce into your business model, like the less jarring it is.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have the peaks and the valleys as much but yeah, totally. I hear that. I've heard this one a lot.
Before we finish here, let me tell you something that I did do that I'm really glad I did. Which is something I've never really properly done before. I have really tight cash flow these days. So what I mean by that is that my accountant uses a piece of software called Float, not the Float invoicing software. I don't know if it's in the US. It basically connects with my Xero account. It pulls down all of the data month by month, and it creates a chart that basically says, hey, here's when you're going to run out of cash. Just here's your personal runway. The cool thing about it is as soon as I invoice in Xero or spend money that gets reconciled in Xero, it gets put into that. As soon as I know, hey, I'm going to have this tax bill payable on this date, it gets factored in too. And so I'm like, okay, well, look, I can also add in like scenarios of, well, what if this deal closes here? What if this deal closes there? And suddenly I've gone from like, oh, hey, like this month, for example, like I haven't closed any new deals so far. Last month I closed heaps and I'm like, oh no, this month I'm doing terribly. Well, actually I look at the cash flow and I'm like, well, you know what? Like 1 or 2 months of this, fine. Like I could not close a deal for the next 2 months and I'd still be safe. Whereas previously, before I was really good at that stuff, before I really paid attention to it, whenever we go through one of these periods of like, basically no deals closing, I remember at doopoll, I was like, oh, this is doomsday. I'm going to have to like, this is the worst. We're going to go out of business imminently. And so I would highly recommend, even if you do that in a Google sheet, because I'm sure that's possible, or you should just use something like Float. Like that is something that is incredibly beneficial, and I'm really glad I did that.
That's cool. I've never heard of this, but just looking it up, it looks pretty cool. No free plugs. Float did not pay for this endorsement, and no one's compensated for it.
No, definitely not.
No, that's cool. I have not seen this before, though. I'm gonna check it out. So, what's next for you, dude? What's something that you want to build that you haven't built yet?
Next thing is two things. The first thing is I'm trying to build my pipeline. So I gotta sort that out. Got to find a reliable way to get clients rather than just having a great network and waiting for people to need me. The second thing is that I'm also thinking about building a software product again. So, I loved it. It was great fun. It was chaos at times and, users are crazy, but I kind of love it as well. And my old co-founder, who we've managed to reconcile our relationship over a really long period of kind of just getting closer again. He's in a similar position to me in his career, and we're thinking about building a couple of little tools together. And I'm really excited about that possibility because you know what? It's like, now I can, I can be curious. Hey, you know what? The great thing is most of my revenue comes from services. So with a software product, now I can just enjoy the process of building the thing and not have to think about I need this to pay everything towards my life right now. So that's enjoyable.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big proponent for keeping the main thing. So I'm curious to see how it goes to manage kind of multiple things. And, what is it like? I'm always asking myself, what is a distraction and what is the right, what am I supposed to be doing right now? What's a distraction? And there's a lot of work that looks like work, even without running a separate business, regardless of its expectations, right? Like even just doing this work, you're like, is this work that looks like work or is this actually work? And I find myself asking that of LinkedIn a lot. I'm like, where's the line drawn between I'm working and I'm just doom scrolling? So
ask me in 6 months.
All right, cool. Dude, it's been a pleasure to jam with you today. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with me. I know more people will feel seen because of it. And for that, I thank you, my man.
That's great. Thanks for having me.
What would be your last meal on Earth?
I had a couple of years ago from a food truck after a very long day. I had some tacos with deep fried tempura. So deep fried naturally, tempura avocado. And honestly, it's one of the best things I've ever eaten.
Can't tell that about it.
Yeah, it was just so creamy, but there was some lime on there as well. So there was some citron, and then I think because I'd had a really long day, I'd been traveling and I just ended up in this award ceremony accidentally. And there was food trucks there. It was just a wonderful thing to end the day. And so look, why not end my life with that also?
Well, no, not your life. Just you're just going to live on another planet or something. It's not just you're just leaving Earth.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. It's a more positive thing. Well, you're just saying hey, we're moving. It's, we have found a new and better blob to float around the sun on.
Yeah. What about you? What's your last meal? What would be
my last meal on Earth? I'm going surf and turf. I want the lobster tail and I want the Pittsburgh style ribeye. Bone in.
Sounds interesting.
Just all slathered up with butter, extra salty.
Yeah. I recently started eating meat again after about 7 years of being a vegetarian. I did it because since the start of the year, I've been in the gym a lot. And I realized basically, despite having a pretty healthy diet, despite working out a good amount, I could not achieve what I wanted to achieve in the gym on the protein content of just vegetarian stuff. And so after like 7 years of no real ethical or like moral objection to eating meat, just stubborn, I started eating chicken again. And that's been a new thing for me. So the world's my oyster. I don't eat oysters though, is the thing.
You should. They're delicious. You definitely should. Is it true after that much time, like introducing meat again, like kind of really wrecks your gut?
I didn't find that to be the case. It's been totally fine. But yeah, I used to fast a lot for like religious reasons. And I don't know if you've ever done it, but if you've been fasting for several days and then you eat like meat, it is absolutely killer. Like it is so hard to digest. It's not what I thought I'd be talking about on this podcast. So
no, I like it. First of all, thank you for asking. No one has ever asked me that. No one has ever asked me what mine would be. So I appreciate that. As you reintroduce meat into your diet, I highly recommend Pittsburgh style ribeye, bone-in ribeye. I don't know if they'll know Pittsburgh style on your side in your corner of the world, but you should try and get someone to do it. I mean, even just a medium rare, seared up, like really well charred ribeye will go a long way.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever had ribeye, in fact.
It's the superior cut. Don't let anyone lie to you and tell you fillets or porter, all this other crap. The ribeye is the be all end all of a cut of steak. And you heard it here first, so I'm sure someone will have a take issue with that, but I don't care. Yeah.